They say one of the things that makes a shonen really good is its power system. Power systems reside at the very core of a series with an influence that reaches far beyond making fights look cool. When done well, a power system shapes the world, the characters, and the themes of a story in a way that makes it that none of them can exist without it. It becomes the lens through which everything else is understood. The rules of the power system become the rules of the world, and the rules of the world become the rules that bind the characters who exist in said world. It's one of the strongest selling points of shonen as a whole. A novel power system can go a long way. A well thought out one can elevate a story to great heights. So what happens when you have a really cool concept for a power system with a lot of potential behind it and completely squander it with poor execution? You get Dead Account. Based off a manga series of the same name, Dead Account follows Soji and Nishiro, a young boy who uploads content of him jumping other content creators and beating them up under the name of Aoringo, making him what they call a flame baiter. He does all this for the sake of making money to pay off his terminally ill sister's medical bill, but tragedy would strike when his sister dies under mysterious circumstances, causing her to turn into a ghost. With the help of another character, Kasubata, Enishiro is able to awaken a unique power called cyberkinesis, which is spiritual power channeled through technology, specifically smartphones. He's able to put his sister's ghost to rest and finds himself pulled into the world of exorcism. Afterwards, he joins Medan Academy, a school for exorcists training the next generation to deal with the rising threat of dead accounts. Dead accounts are ghostly manifestations of the social media profiles of people who died with strong, unresolved feelings. They manifest in the physical world from cyberspace as dangerous supernatural entities, with their abilities tied directly to their personalities, their grudges, and the circumstances of their deaths. Traditional exorcism techniques, called psychokinesis, are largely useless against them, so a new generation of spirit mediums have to adapt, channeling their spirit energy through modern devices to fight back. It's a fun premise that unfortunately ends up feeling a lot familiar than it sounds. The overall story is pretty generic, and if you watch through it, you can't help but draw up similarities with other big name shonen out there, especially Jujutsu Kaisen. I mean, just look. The main character has powers directly tied to the big bad of their verse, which causes their respective spiritual societies to see them as a threat. They join a school made specifically for dealing with the supernatural, though this is a lot more common. They have a sensei who is seen as the strongest. The MC is part of a trio that go on a mission that goes horribly wrong with the appearance of a much stronger monster. They even have a class battle arc that ends with a bigger threat showing up. It's a shame because underneath all that familiarity lies an interesting concept for a power system that has a lot of interesting things going for it, which is hard to come by in modern shonen. Cyberkinesis in Dead Account isn't a one-size-fits-all ability powered by some variation of MP. The way it manifests in a user is directly shaped by how they engage with technology, and specifically social media. From their browsing habits to their personalities, trauma, and even their worst online behaviors, it means that from the moment a character is introduced, their power is already telling you something about who they are and how they maneuver this digital age. Take the main character, Enishiro, who is a flame baiter, someone who spent his time rallying up people online, trolling people and getting into flame wars while getting a kick out of the whole thing, so his power is literally to conjure up flames and use them to enhance himself. Kasubata is a vulgar guy who fights back against flame baiters online, shooting down their attempts to instigate, so his ability lets him summon a literal banhammer, and spoilers, he's also a flame baiter too. Urusagawa is a girl who is super obsessed with her favorite idol, so she stalks all his socials, is there for all his live streams, and showers him with super chats all the time. With how parasocial she is towards him, her ability lets her shoot sticky goo that binds her targets, making it hard for them to get away. Then there's characters like this guy who loves raising digital pets, so he can summon them out like Digimon. Or the nurse, who can basically alter reality through Photoshop to heal people. And because a lot of these powers are born from not so favorable personality traits, it means the cast arrive with preloaded flaws, because a lot of how people behave online isn't how they do in real life. The anonymity that comes from talking behind a screen does things to people. So if your power is a direct reflection of that behavior, then the series has a built-in mechanism for exploring those darker impulses in a way that's grounded in something modern, recognizable, and dare I say, relatable. Like imagine what kind of powers a gacha game addict, a power scaler, or a brain rot consumer could have. There is nothing but potential oozing from this system in terms of creative action and character writing. But unfortunately, for all the thematic potential packed into this concept, Dead Account doesn't really do much with it. Cyberkinesis sets up a world that seems primed to say something meaningful about the way we present ourselves online, about the gap between who we are in public digital spaces and who we are in private. There are some rich ideas behind the power system. The internet is full of a lot of complicated and morally ambiguous behaviors. Social media has become a system that rewards bad behavior and has given people entirely new ways to be their worst selves with next to no consequences. That account looks at all of that and settles for telling you not to be a jerk online. So the themes don't really get to land and all you're left feeling is the squandered potential of the series. Like there is one character in particular who really pissed me off with the way he was handled. This is Ban Ashina, whose cyberkinesis is summoning ice because all his social media accounts get frozen or banned moments after creation, so he's constantly making new ones. He's a self-proclaimed artist obsessed with his beauty and yearns to keep his youthful looks. Now take a wild guess, what do you think he posts on these accounts? Well, it's his mostly nude body online for everyone else to see. Let me remind you, he's in high school and is 100% a minor. And every time he posts, he gets flooded with comments praising his body, which in turn fuels his ego. This boy is being groomed. I don't need to tell you how very wrong that is, but it seems like the characters themselves don't even see that. Nobody, not even the adults, call him out on how wrong what he's doing is. In fact, the only problem they have with him is his vanity and that's about it. This could have been the story's moment to say something about grooming and serve as a critique on how social media doesn't really have proper ways to prevent this from happening with next to no safe space for minors online. But instead, it's about how this guy who is so obsessed with his appearance doesn't realize he had friends until his final moments. It was so infuriating watching this arc play out, and Ashina isn't even the only one the series drops the ball on, because if you thought that was bad, the female characters in this show have it even worse. During the interclass battle arc, two female characters face off, Urosagawa against a girl called Kusaba, and the series immediately fails the Bechdel test by having their entire fight and motivation center around men. Now Urosagawa I can somewhat understand, her whole thing is being parasocial so it lets her motivation being tied to a guy make sense within her character. But Kusaba though, she's something else entirely. Her ability lets her summon a mine with the face of a man who has fallen for her, and when she steps on it, it draws out 120% of that man's potential as her own. So her whole thing is chasing after men much older than her, changing her personality and appearance to better match whoever she's currently fixated on, and hold up, is that a Metamorphosis reference? Oh my goodness. Okay, look, I get that the series is leaning into the idea that online behavior shapes your powers, and in theory, a character built around performative self-reinvention for male attention could be interesting territory to explore. The internet is full of that specific kind of person, and there's a real conversation to be had about that. But this series doesn't have that conversation. It just presents her, plays her for laughs and fan service, and then moves on. Their fight ends with both their clothes getting blown off with the whole thing wrapping up in a hot spring scene, which is a problem the series keeps running into. Every time it brings up a topic it could say something meaningful about, it stutters. Ashina could have been a grooming critique, Kusaba could have been a commentary on identity erosion and performative femininity online. Instead, they are just characters who exist, have their moments, and get filed away. It falls into the same pitfalls that catch a lot of shonen series, from characters who have one defining moment and get sidelined afterwards, to straight up breaking its own rules of the power system all for the sake of the plot. Every time the series brushes up against something interesting, every time a character's online behavior starts to intersect with something real and complicated about who they are, it chickens out and retreats back to the standard shonen formula. That said, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't have a good time watching that account. Despite all of that, there was a certain charm to this series I wasn't expecting. Despite all the cringe, which gets cranked up when watching the English dub, I just could not bring myself to hate it. It's got the energy of early 2000s shonen, the kind of series that would just throw things at the wall to see what would stick, running on imagination and vibes, even when it really couldn't carry the vision. There's a loose and scrappy quality to it that feels almost nostalgic in a genre that has become incredibly polished and self-aware. It doesn't have that calculated slickness of something built to go viral, it just kind of does its own thing with a cheerful confidence that is really hard to resist. That specific flavor of shonen energy is pretty rare now, so it's kind of refreshing watching a series that doesn't try too hard to be cool and just wants to wholeheartedly embrace the campiness that comes with the gimmick it's trying to sell you. Would I call it a great anime? No, not really, but it was pretty entertaining, so points for that. It's the kind of series that makes you wish someone had trusted the concept enough to really follow through with it, while still being enjoyable enough that you don't regret spending your time with it. I for one am already deep into it and might consider checking out the manga later down the line. But that'll be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Talking about series that get next to no motion online doesn't exactly do well with the algorithm, so leaving a like is the best way to let it know that this video wasn't buns. And if you'd like to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe too. As always, this has been your very favorite slice of bread. Stay toasty.